If my batteries drop below 40 degrees, they start burning their own power just to stay alive. If they drop below 14 degrees, they cut off all power and just barely keep themselves alive. And when you live off grid, losing or wasting power to heat batteries is a pretty bad idea. Today, I'm attempting a highly sophisticated engineering solution.
So here's a riddle. What does a seed mat, moving blankets, and a battery rack all have in common? We're gonna make my batteries a Snuggie and give them a little toe warmer. I have absolutely no idea if this is gonna work.
Probably not. To be honest, this is probably not gonna work.
And I can hear the comments coming in now. Ooh, what's wrong with your batteries? Nothing is wrong with my batteries. They're operating completely as advertised. It's just really freaking cold out here.
My batteries are actually self-heating and they work exactly how they're supposed to. I'm very happy with them. The cold temperature and location of my rack just creates a, not even unique, a pretty standard problem that we need to solve for this specific homestead. The goal here isn't fixing a problem, it's avoiding one. If I can keep this rack just a little warmer than the outside air, the batteries won't have to waste their own power heating themselves.
So the hope is that the blankets will create a nice little warm thermal barrier around the batteries so that with the help of the seed mat and the natural heat that the batteries generate, they'll stay nice and toasty inside.
So I started by cutting out 6 pieces of moving blanket, one for each side of the rack. One of them is going to be unattached, goes on the floor underneath the whole rack, and the rest get stitched together into kind of a custom fitted Snuggie for the server rack.
Tech guys over at SunGold said that if I'm going to be doing a blanket, some kind of thermal barrier, to make sure I leave some vent holes for ventilation going in there. So I guess we'll humor them, maybe.
Once everything was cut out, the next step was sewing the panels together into one big wrap, which would be easy. This should actually be easy if I knew how to sew.
Babe, how do you sew shit?
With a little help, we eventually figured it out, but after way too long sitting at the picnic bench and poking my fingers, I got bored and switched to a more advanced fabrication method. Staples worked so well.
Not a bad fit if I don't say so myself. Notice the fine craftsmanship of using staples to secure my Velcro.
The night after I finished the Snuggie, the temperature dropped to 5 degrees, which made it a pretty good test for the world's first battery Snuggie prototype. At least I think it's the first. I haven't seen anyone else do it, which is probably a sign I should have paid attention to.
So we failed. We actually did make the batteries heat hotter. We didn't make them hotter enough. They are too cold. They are in self-protection mode that is completely within the specifications operating limits.
But honestly, that's okay. Even though it didn't fully solve the problem, the Snuggie still kept the inside of the rack about 6 degrees warmer than the outside ambient air temperature. So the idea is doing something. We're just not quite there yet. What I really need is a way to keep this room warmer without burning propane or draining my batteries just to heat the batteries, which might not be possible. This probably means there are going to be a few more weird experiments before we get this right or bite the bullet and just buy an electric heater. And that's just part of living off grid. Not every crazy idea works, but every failed one gets you a little closer to the system that does work. And sooner or later, I'm gonna figure out how to keep these batteries above 14 degrees, maybe even 40 degrees. I just don't know what that system looks like yet. Actually I do, because this was filmed like a month and a half ago. It's insulation and a space heater, but that video will come later.